everybody, it's LaTanya from Smarty Style. Welcome back to my channel, and I am back with a sit down video. This one is extra special because it is my very first collaboration, and so this is a collaboration video with Megan from Too Cool for Middle School, and today we're going to be talking about how to stay positive and avoid negativity in the infamous teacher's lounge. And we know it doesn't always happen in the teacher's lounge, but people always say, you know, stay away from the teacher's lounge because those teachers in there can get really negative. I remember being told that when I was getting my credentials. So, but this is just very general, how to stay positive in those negative situations around those negative people. So please do me a favor, after you watch my take on this topic, please head over to Megan's channel and see what she has to offer you guys as well. So I tried to break down what I had to say into 5 simple things that I try and keep in mind when I'm out there at work, or even when I'm just in situations where I really feel like someone is just a bit more negative than what I am comfortable with. So the first one that I came up with, I just couldn't figure out how to say it besides everybody just stay in their lane. And what I mean by that is that there are some people out there that their first instinct or their first response is to be pessimistic about a situation or to be negative about the situation. And I think what I have learned is when I meet someone and when I've gotten to the point where I understand aspects of their personality, and one of those aspects is that more often than not they're going to look at the negative side as opposed to the positive side, it really allows me to just kind of, I tell my friends, I just kind of put people in that box so that when they're in that moment of being negative, I just tell myself they are just being who they are. For whatever reason, that is who they are, and there's no need in me wasting my energy being upset with them for being who they are. So just making sure that I recognize that, and then once I recognize that, let that go. And I think a book that I read a couple years ago with my family that really kind of helped push that point home is this book called The Energy Bus. This is by Jon Gordon, and it really just kind of speaks to that idea. It kind of it presents life in the metaphor of being on a bus, and you don't want the negative people to get on your bus and then suck all the life energy out of you. So just kind of keep people in their box, and if your lane is to be the optimist and be more positive about things, then just keep being you and keep doing that, but don't spend too much time and energy allowing that negative person to get to you, because in the end, it's just a waste of your time. And once you recognize what someone is or who they are, you kind of start to become immune to them when they get in those fits of negativity. My second tip is to just be genuine with people and your interactions with them, which may sound like, well, what does that have to do with dealing with negative people? I'm not the one with the problem, so why do I have to really be concerned with how I'm interacting? What I have found for me is that I am the type of person that I will let you know how I feel, and that does not mean I'm going to be in your face just telling you like, no, you're wrong, this is how it is, this is what I think. I will hear you out, but I am not afraid to contribute to the conversation in terms of my perspective on whatever we're talking about. And I think once people recognize that, more often than not, I like to look at things from both sides. I'm not going to get one piece of information from one person and just immediately assume that what they're saying is correct. I'm going to hear what they have to say, and if I have the opportunity to hear the other side, I'm going to give just as much time and energy in listening to that side, and then I'm going to come to my own conclusion. And if I think what you're saying is not necessarily true or so, I will find, if it's appropriate, like if we are in that kind of situation where we're having that kind of back and forth, I will find a tactful way or a diplomatic way, and definitely a respectful way to let you know why I disagree, and just kind of express that without coming across as overbearing or a know-it-all. And I have just learned that when people realize that I'm going to hear you, but if I think what you're saying is not necessarily true, I'm going to communicate that to you, it kind of helps them to gauge how negative they're going to be. A lot of times people that are just primarily negative or pessimistic, they're seeking people out to be negative with because they know those people will validate what they're saying or be their, you know, their hype person, be like, yeah, you're right, this is so wrong, they're terrible, the world is terrible. And when they realize you are not necessarily going to be that person for them, then the want and the desire for them to just put all that on you is really kind of taken away, especially if they know they may come to you and have this whole approach and tell you what's wrong and why it's wrong and who's wrong and the world is wrong, and you may come back to them and say, but is it really? And that kind of helps. So just be genuine. If you agree with something, agree with it, and that's fine. But if you disagree with something and it's appropriate to kind of express why you disagree with it, or it's necessary, don't be afraid to do that, because in the end, it really does help you, and it really does help your colleagues and your friends understand how much you're willing to listen to when it comes to being maybe more pessimistic about something. One of the things I would suggest if you're a teacher, because a lot of this can come from, like, you know, the district versus the teacher, and the district doesn't understand, or your principal doesn't understand, try and get involved in things that allow you to see the district's perspective on something. So I know my work with the teachers union in my district and my work as a part of the leadership team at my previous school really helped me to hear the thought process of people that are in positions of power with the district, to understand why they've made a decision, so that if someone at my school site said, well, they're just doing it because they want to make our lives miserable, I was able to articulate, no, that's not really what they're doing. They're doing it for X, Y, and Z. And that really helped a lot. And I think other teachers appreciated that, because they were able to see something from a different perspective that maybe they weren't able to do before. So just be genuine with the people that you're dealing with. Try and get involved so that you can see both sides, and just kind of take that in and help you along the way. My third tip is just to understand that we all have bad days. You have either been that negative person, and if you haven't, you will be someday. I've been that negative person before. And just, if you remember that everybody has an off day, or an off 2 days, or an off week, or an off trimester, or if it's really bad, just an off year, and just be sympathetic to that. You don't want to sit and be so pious to think that I'm always positive, I'm always optimistic, I never utter anything negative, because that's just not true. We all have bad days, and if you keep that in mind, and someone's coming up to you and you just feel like they are just on a whole nother level in terms of being negative, if you just remind yourself, you know what, maybe they're just having a bad day. I don't know where this is coming from. Maybe at home something went wrong. Maybe they're stressed. Maybe they're tired. Maybe their mind is on something else, and it's just manifesting itself right here in front of me. And just when you do that, it allows you to be a little bit more patient with people. Just kind of let them vent whatever it is. A lot of times, if someone's being negative, I will let them get it out. And sometimes I don't necessarily respond. And one little tip that I've learned, I don't know why I started doing this, but it's pretty effective. If someone is just really venting and they're being negative, sometimes they just want to be heard. And if everything they're saying you don't necessarily agree with, but you want them to have a moment and get it out, I have found just doing a simple like a nod of the head and just like a sound really works, because they don't know if that means like you're right, or it's just a I'm listening. And that way you don't really have to say anything that you don't necessarily agree with, and you are allowing that person to feel like, okay, they're listening, let me get it out. Because sometimes you need to be that person, especially if it's like a teammate and they're just going through something. Sometimes you just need to let a person vent. So just know that we've all been there, we're all going to be there, and so you don't want to put yourself above others and think that you'll never be in that position, because we're only human, and we're all going to have bad days, and we're all going to take it out on the wrong person at some point in our lives. Tip number 4 is remove yourself from the situation. Now, this happens if you've tried all the other strategies, you've let them vent, or you've kind of shown them that you're really not the one that's going to want to take in all this negativity, and they're still not picking up on the cues that you don't necessarily want to hear it, and they're just there, and they're just really going hard on it, and they're just negative, and you physically feel like you can't take it anymore. If it gets to that point, I don't think there's anything wrong with just politely removing yourself from the situation. So if you're in the teacher's lounge or in the workroom and everybody's talking and it's just full of negativity and it's affecting you, because sometimes I have been in situations where it physically is affecting me, then just smile and leave the premises, or go to another room, or go do something else so that you're not in that and you're not being exposed to that. And I think that is perfectly fine. I even self-isolated myself sometimes. Like when I'm saying, I know I've had days where I am just in a mood, and I know that the sun is too bright and people are too happy and everything everybody's going to say is wrong. I have put myself in a situation where I've said, let me just go sit in my classroom and not really bother anybody, because I don't want my mood to then affect everybody else, because that's just not fair. So if worse comes to worse and you just can't take it anymore, definitely remove yourself from the situation so that you don't have to be exposed to that, and you kind of let them do what they need to do, because what else can you do? My last last tip is to set the tone and be an example. So sometimes what I will do is, if I'm in a situation, and I would especially do this a lot, I think, when I was at union meetings or teacher leader meetings and things were getting a little tense and it felt a little negative, is sometimes I would just try and crack a joke or make a lighthearted comment about the situation, especially if it was a situation that we just couldn't avoid. Like if it was something that we all felt was not necessarily something we wanted to do, but there was nothing we could do about it, just try and make a joke out of it, make the best of it. And if it's not appropriate to make a joke, just try and set an example of saying, okay, this is rough, but we got to do what we got to do. We're wasting time focusing on the negative and not really coming up with any solutions to this problem, and just try and set the tone and set the example for others to kind of follow. Sometimes that's easier said than done, and I get that, but a lot of times it's not so hard, and people really do appreciate the effort that you're trying to make to kind of lighten the mood. So that's it. This is a pretty short video, I think. I don't want to give you so many tips that you can't really manage them when you're out there dealing with people and going through it. Just those 5 things, but I think if anything, I would highly suggest that you read this book, The Energy Bus, because it was a really great read. It's a very quick read. I think I actually listened to this on audio in my car, and I, for a couple years, listened to this just before school started so that I would kind of get my mind in that state of mind so that I can kind of be ready for the school year. And there's even a children's book version of this that I also share with my students at the beginning of the year, because kids need to know the same thing. Like, you want to stay positive. You don't want to let the mood or the attitude of others affect who you are and what you're trying to do in life. And I will definitely link these in the description box. But just remember, you gotta appreciate people for who they are, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And if someone is in just a fit of negativity, just kind of put them in that box and say to yourself, let them do them, and I'm gonna do me, and don't waste a lot of time and energy on being upset at them for being who they are, because we don't know why they're doing that and why they are the person that they are, and we really have no control over changing that. So that is it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to head over to Too Cool for Middle School and check out her video. Until then, I will see you guys in the next video. Stay positive, and I will see you guys soon. Have a good one. Bye.